So in this video of drawing and breaking down poses, I chose 3 poses from Pinterest. And I don't think I chose poses that were too hard to do. I wanted to choose some poses that were kind of, twisted a little bit at some different angles and with some extreme force perspective. So this one, I started out with the torso, and I kind of wanted to start with the torso first, just to kind of show how I would start with the torso with these type of poses, and just in a kind of a way to measure things out. And so I drew the circle for that and the circle for the waist, and I added a line, center line, and a line going across to show where the chest is, because the chest is the body is bending upwards, so the chest is or the breast area is pretty small, and so I wanted to show that with the lines where it's crossed up like that. So now I'm adding in the darkening some of the lines, and I'm drawing in kind of like where the legs are going to be. So I add in that circle where the knee is, just to kind of give me that point to where I could connect everything. So I draw the knee in first, and I'll start to connect everything to it, overlapping the shapes as you normally see me do in my other videos and tutorials. And overlapping shapes it's kind of like it's the easiest way to draw things in, for shorten. When you draw, overlap shapes enough, you automatically will know how to overlap them to create those foreshortened poses. Adding in the foot, adding that leg. And you see that I'm adding in the legs first before I get to the top. And typically you see me add in the top first before I start to add in the legs. But this is more of a different approach I like to take to drawing poses, mainly because with the way this pose is, I like to draw from different angles or different areas first to kind of start to figure out how to draw these shapes out to create the pose. I'm adding the foot. The foot is going backwards, adding in that little arm in the back. This kind of like where he's stretching back behind him. Adding in the hand, drawing in the palm, adding the fingers because the fingers touching the ground. Don't want him to be like he's in midair, so gotta add that too. And I'm drawing the hand the way I normally do, where I'm adding in those shapes for the hand and the circle for the shoulder. And now I'm placing in the head. Now, because I placed the head in late, it's a way you can easily redraw it or remeasure it as you go, but since it's the beginning phase, you can pretty much just make whatever size you want. You see how I added that head in, and I drew that circle below where the neck is going up, so the head is tilted up, so I always draw that little circle. I think I've drawn head tutorials before in my earlier videos that shows doing different head tilts where the head is looking up and looking down, and when the head is looking up, you can see the circle under the neck more, depending on how far the head is going up. I'm adding in the other hand, the arm, darken some of the lines. You see, I like to go over multiple times just to kind of get the hand warmed up a little bit while I'm drawing and kind of loosen up. That way I'm not drawing it too stiff. I'm drawing in the thumb in there, adding the fingers. You see when I'm adding the fingers, I like to add the tips first, and then I work my way from the tips back to the hand. So again, first, second, and third, and the fourth. Now I'm just adding in the cylinders as I go back into the palm. And the cylinders there, cylinders that one. And since the other ones are pretty hidden, it's fairly easy to get those cylinders out really quick. Adding in that palm. Now for this one, I chose a picture in perspective going down. That way I can kind of show a little bit more of these. And so I started with the head with this one because I always like to start with the head going down in perspective. It depends on the position of the body and where it's on the paper, but I like to typically start with the head. And so I make the head as big as I can because it's going down the angle, and the eyes, and then the triangle for the nose. And you'll see me move the triangle and bend it around depending on how the head is positioned. I'm adding in the circle for the body, or at least for the chest area. And I make that a little bit smaller just because it's going down. And every time I'm going down, you'll see me adding in the shapes, but smaller. You see me adding in the waist, and it's now smaller than the chest as I'm going down, kind of like a sliced circle. That you see, I'm adding in the legs, the cylinder for the calf, and then the foot. Adding another leg, going down the same way, smaller as you go down. Circle for the knee, other cylinder for the bottom part of the leg, the other foot. I'm adding in the circle for the shoulder. I always like to add a circle for the shoulder just so I can know where the cylinder is going to go. Even if it's hidden, I'll just draw some of the circle heavy and then some of it lightly if I know it's going to be hidden behind something. Now I'm drawing in the hand, or it's the palm of the hand. That way I can kind of measure out where it is in relation to the head. So I'm adding in that forearm. And you see me just making a bunch of lines for forearm only because I'm trying to figure out the size of it, where it's going to go. Like I erase the lines as I go, but I'm trying to figure out how big it's going to go, or how big is the forearm going to be. Don't make either whether it's too skinny or not. I'm adding in the fingers. You see I'm drawing the outline of the finger out first before I start to kind of work in those cylinders. Because sometimes I'll draw the fingers out straightforward, and sometimes I'll add in those cylinders, but it all depends on how I feel and how I want to do it. This one I just drew the fingers out in one big swipe, and then I'll just go back and start to kind of fill in those cylinders into the fingers. But since this particular pose of the fingers is fairly easy, I kind of just drew them straight out. You kind of see me just adding in those, breaking apart the finger with the little cylinder lines. And the next one, drew it out. I was darkening the hand a little bit more. The forearm. Now I'm working in that on the right side. I was kind of making the shoulder a little lightly there. That way you can kind of figure out where it is and where I'm going to go with it. I'm adding in the next back of the palm there. That way I can kind of measure out and see how far it is. And then I kind of work my way down to the arm from there. Because I already drew the palm out first, so I already know and can measure out how far the distance is from the palm to the face. That way I can start adding in the fingers and see how long the fingers are going to be, or towards the head or what. So I'm adding in that first finger. That way I can kind of get a general idea of how far it is to the face. And I start to add in other fingers as I go. Add that second finger. One big outline. And then the other fingers are they're bent in, so I kind of just drew those. Breaking apart the fingers into the cylinders. Darkening the lines. I always like to darken the lines, especially with the hand, because I'm kind of just, with the hand, it's so complex, and you don't want that to be blending in with whatever else you're drawing. So I'll darken the hands and I'll leave everything else usually. So right now I'm just darkening everything so I can see a little bit better. The legs and that circle for the knee. just to get everything in there. Now for this one is a little more complex because this one is using, I'm assuming like a kind of a fish angle lens or something, because the perspective on this is at its extreme point, and the hand is all is more it's like a the main focal point of the picture because it's so far in at the camera lens that everything else is small and is going forward, but then it's kind of distorted a little bit because of the angle of the perspective and how extreme it is. So trying to figure this out was like the challenge. So right now I started with the head as usual, and since the head is pretty small, I just worked my way from that. I just drew the head first, then the circle for the shoulder, the cylinder for the arm, and then the cylinder for the forearm is kind of coming at you. And so right now I made a circle for the knee. That way I'll know how big the knee is in relation to that. So I'm kind of just, you start small with the forearm and kind of just go wide, and then now I'm working my way to the fingers because the fingers are, it's the main focal point of the whole picture. So I'm working that in there. Or I could work my way from the hand first and then into the rest of the body, but I wanted to kind of just work my way into it, looking at the picture, trying to figure it out. And because he's also wearing clothes, it's also a little hard to figure out, but it's just a challenge to do, especially when you're just drawing and practicing or just, having fun with it, messing around, trying to figure out these weird poses and angles that's going on. And so I'm doing it the same as I've been doing it before. I'm just drawing those cylinders, getting those fingers in. Because the hand is typically the easiest to do because you're just drawing them cylinders in as you go. I'm assuming his, was it 1, 2, 3, 4? I'm assuming his fifth finger is more likely hidden behind his other finger on the other side. Because sometimes when you're drawing pictures or you're taking pictures of something, sometimes depending on the angle of the picture, the finger is hidden behind the other ones, depending on how the hand is shown in the picture. Someone's look at it and say, "Oh, hey, you're missing one finger or you're missing two fingers," even though because of the angle of the picture, that's just the way it is. It's just not showing the other side of that finger. So that's what I'm assuming what it is. So I'm adding in that foot on the bottom. I'm kind of just work my way through the picture as I go, looking at it and going back and trying to figure this whole thing out. And I'm just drawing the hand. And it's always good trying to use shapes to figure these poses out, so we can get kind of a general idea of where the pose is going or how it exists in 3D space when you're drawing out these shapes. So now drawing the knee. Do the knee first, that way I can kind of, I'll know how far the knee is to the body. I mean, it can be closer, smaller, doesn't make a difference. I just draw it as you see it. The closest to the reference that you're doing, and then just go from there. You're just practicing. You're not trying to make it too perfect because you're gonna probably take it and make it into your own pose, your own character, or whatever. So you don't need to be too exact because this is more like a construction phase before you start to add details and finalize it for either your own drawing or what's in the reference itself. But you don't have to be too exact with your shape structure for drawing the poses out. Drawing that foot, because the foot is also just as big as the hand. Adding that in there, kind of this little shoe. I kind of made it a little more 3D, adding in some extra lines into it. And you don't have to do that. I mean, you can add like an actual footer if you want. I'm just doing it just for the practice purposes. I'm just adding in a lot of the 3D little lines to kind of make it come out, pop a little bit more. So I'm adding some more of those little lines. And it just takes practice. The more you do it, the easier it is. You can do these like 20 or 40 times, and by the time you get to the end, you'll be able to do it without looking at the picture at all. It's all about muscle memory. The second you get that muscle memory, it'll be easy for you to do, and you won't have to look at it anymore. So right now, I'm just adding those final lines, darkening everything up, trying to get rid of all the light lines. That's it for this video. Want to see more videos like this? Like button, subscribe, and comment for anything else you want to see. Take care.